I just stayed over there.
Since I've been here helping. Let's give her crew a hand. We really appreciate it, Kathy. And she worries every year that she's not going to do a good job and that someone's going to criticize. I just tell her, don't worry about it. Okay, we're going to move right along. On the agenda is the approval of the Secretary's minutes. You each received a copy of the Secretary's minutes in the mailing. Are there any corrections or questions? If you didn't bring them with you, that's your problem. You're supposed to have read them, just ask Ms. Joanna. Seeing no questions or problems, I ask Madam Secretary to show that everything was unanimous. Treasurer's report, that was also mailed to you. Any questions on the Treasurer's report? Seeing none, I also suggest to Madam Treasurer unanimous approval of the Secretary's and the Treasurer's reports. Next, we turn to correspondence with our Secretary, Gladys Durick. I'm so pleased to have her back with us this year. I was afraid she'd head to Florida with her bikini again. We missed her last year, but she came back. Gladys, any correspondence? Okay, I stopped at Emil and Donna's house the other day, and she told me that she had a letter that she'd like to read because many of you would know or understand, and it would appreciate and maybe enjoy listening to this. Donna?
Just a little background. This letter was written to my brother Emil Sill by Stanley Regelman. We're from the class of 1951, and last night we celebrated our 55th class reunion. We had a ball. Stanley is no longer with us. His sister, Barbara Regelman Siprin, for anyone don't know where she's at, she's at Four Seasons Trailer Park. This letter for a while was lost in our family papers, and I found it too late to give it to the school here when they honored the Korean War veterans and memorial. So this is from Stanley, who was in the Army during the Korean War, from June 27, 1953. To my brother Emil. Hi Emil, how the hell are things getting along in Vienna? You'll never guess who I got a letter from yesterday. Dolores Brown. I received a letter from you the 14th of this month, but I just got a chance to glance at it. I was up on the main line when I received it. I was forward observer for the mortars. When I would see some chinks or some other target, I'd radio or telephone back to the guns so they could fire on it. I was on guard then. That's why I only had a chance to glance at the letter. I was supposed to be relieved at 11 o'clock that night, but instead, hell broke loose at 9:30. I was looking out of the aperture of my bunker at the Chinks line. They kept throwing up green flares until every place along their line they had thrown one up. Then at 9:30 on the nose, they threw up green cluster up, like the kind you see on the 4th of July. That was a signal for their attack. Because of that second 3 more rounds hit the top of my bunker. I didn't get hurt, but the concussion knocked me on my ass. I then crawled over to the phone, but the line had been knocked out. I then checked the radio, but the aerial had been blown off of it. There wasn't much I could do, because I sure as hell couldn't go out of the bunker then, for they were dropping rounds in the trench built leading out of the bunker. I just sat there in the bunker for about a half an hour, and by the time they had blown the roof completely off it, then the shelling slacked off just long enough for me to go about 50 yards to the bunker where there were 2 more men from our mortar out there and 4 from the heavy artillery. We were the only GIs up there because the rest were ROK soldiers. You may have heard back there that the ROKs were such great fighters. Well, that's a lot of horse shit. I didn't even hear them fire a shot, but they sure were making their legs go all the wrong direction, of course. Since they were bugging out, we weren't going to stay there and be captured or killed, so we left everything there we owned except our rifles, helmets, and flak jackets, and the 7 of us started off the hill. About an hour later, we were about 100 yards from the bottom of the hill, and there were only 4 of us left. The other 3 had gotten it on the way down, because all the way we were dodging shells and walking through trenches filled with dead boots. While we were there talking, taking count, another round came in and another man from the artillery got hit. I told the other 2 men to go and get a medic, and I'd stay and dress his wounds. After sitting there with him for about half an hour, I checked his pulse, heartbeat, and breathing, and decided that he had died. By that time, I could see the flash from the Chinks' burp guns, so I hauled ass. When I finally got down to where my company had been located, but it was all a fire. The ammo had been hit. I kept right on going down the road and luckily caught our last Jeep pulling out. Our whole battalion pulled back about 5 miles for the rest of the night. The next night we came back up to the line and started digging in another position, and we have been here ever since. Everything has been calm since then, and we're pretty well caught up with equipment, but I sure as hell hope I never have to go through that again. Well, boy, take care of yourself, and tell everyone I said hello. Your buddy Stan. P.S. Don't let my folks hear what's in this letter. This is one of the reasons why the letter was never revealed for a long time. All I have to say is, God bless all of you, our boys and girls, men and women who were in and are in the military, and God bless America. And we've all been through something. Thank you for letting me read this.
Voices from the past, what can I say? Next, old business. The only old business after last year's meeting had one person, maybe two people suggesting, because as we mentioned last year, going to have to go as a pay-as-you-go because of expenses going higher and higher. Suggestion was made as to, well, maybe check with the churches. The board members mentioned to me this has been checked in the past, and there are certain stipulations and whatnot. Also, I found out, having been with the school system for a long time, the fire department sets a limit as to how many people can fit in a building. But thanks to Donna, she did check down at Presbyterian Church where she attends, and they do have a meeting place, but it only seats 100. So last year we had 120, so there's no way. Now the only advantage it might have, it is handicapped accessible. The restrooms are maybe easier to get to. So we're not making any suggestions. I just bring that to your attention that maybe down the road sometime as we all get older. And I do have my Medicare card now. Maybe it's something we may have to think about. Donna?
I was talking to someone with the whole Rosary, and they said to check there since they have their new hall down there and see how many they can see down there, since that's also barrier-free.
So if, think about it. If you have any suggestions, think about it. Go over to Gladys or Ann or any of the other, Charlotte Fensky, Karina Kennedy, let them know if you have any thoughts on the matter. Like I say, we're not going to move on it right now, but just to let you know that as things transpire, it gets harder and harder to get up the steps. That's why this year we sent out, do you need handicap ramps? And no one requested them. So that saves us $50 or $60 from getting those ramps from Portable Medical to get them here. So we've saved that way this year also. But we will get them if people need them. That's no problem. Okay. Before we go into the election of secretary and vice president, I just want to acknowledge two people. One, Joanne Stringer, who is retiring and going off the board as my reign of terror ends as of tonight. I take Joanne's place on the board. Joanne has done this group a service long before I ever arrived on the scene, and I think has occupied every position who knows how many times. So Joanne, I'd just like to say thank you. You've been godsend to me the last 2 years with your motivational encouragement to me. So Joanne, I just want to say thank you. Another person I'd like to let you know something about as I've learned more and more, and that's Paul File. Joanne told me, get hold of Paul File, get him here, because he used to do so much for us. So Paul, stand up. Thank you. This was way back when Paul was here. He volunteered his time. He came. This is before custodians got paid for coming out and doing this. And Paul was here doing it for this association of his own free will. And I just thought, I ran into him. I was here last week checking to make sure everything was getting set up, and there was Paul. And I said, I need your address. I don't know your address. You're not in the phone book. So he gave it to me, and he's here. And he has to take his wife's in the hospital, and he still came. So thanks, Paul. We really appreciate everything you've done. All right, the floor is open for nominations for the secretarial position. Are there any nominations? Charlotte?
I nominate Gladys Dory.
Okay, we have a nomination for Gladys Durick, our present secretary. Any other nominations? Danny?
I make a motion nomination be closed.
Okay.
I'll second it.
All right. We have closed and seconded. Seeing that we only have one person, I want the record to show, Madam Secretary, that the vote was unanimous. Congratulations again, glad to have you back. Let me tell you, she really cracked the whip. So as you know how things go, since I retire out of the president seat into Joanne's seat, then Anna Marie Wilson-Shargo becomes your president next year for the next 2 years. So we have to find someone to become the vice president for the next 2 years. Are there any nominations for vice president? Charlotte?
Ernie Woolman.
Okay, Ernie Williman.
I second that.
Okay, we have a second. Any others? Well, this makes it easy. Ernie, stand up, because he lives on Sodom Hutchins Road. He's part of your committee. What class, Ernie? I forget, 61?
1960.
Okay, 1960, so we got some new blood to help us out. Okay, so there's only one nomination.
I say nominations be closed.
Okay, Donna closes them. Since we only have one on the floor, Madam Secretary, please let the record show that the vote is unanimous. Thank you, Ernie, we appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Secretary, for being back with us. Okay, pay-as-you-go donations. I just want to tell you, I feel bad. Our attendance dropped. I guess I shouldn't feel bad because I was trying to set the record and I failed. We had about 121, 122 last year. We had 100 tonight. But for you that are here and many people, regulars that usually come that couldn't attend and others that sent donations, before we do the 50-50, we have received $727 in donations. So the attendance might be down, but the donations have skyrocketed. And I appreciate that, helping Jarena and your Alumni Association. So we'll double check. Danny, have you counted the money? How much is in the 50-50 when we split? His wife's counting that figure. What you got, Jeff?
$140.
Okay, when we come to that part, it's going to be $140. To be your share on the 50-50. So with 727 and that added to it, thank you. We're in pretty good shape, and Jarena will be able to put some money back in the savings. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to have Anna Marie and Shirley Scott Sell please come forward for the memorial.
Excuse me. Edgar Mealy, 1934. Lloyd Hoffman, 1937. Marcelo Drum Folk, 1942. Velma Gibson, 1942.
Olga Vassar Soroka, 1943. Mary Lou Scott Wilson, 1950. Robert Gaynor, 1959. And Ray Remus, 1954.
Would we please bow our heads and just have a moment of silence in their memory, please? Thank you.
We will start with the roll call of classes. This is your organization. Last year when I called the classes, I did not have the people stand because one of the mandates people had asked me was try to speed things up. This is your organization, so we tried it that way last year. So I just openly ask you, as we call the roll call of classes, would you prefer to have the people stand and say their names so that you can try and get to them later to recognize an individual? I'll just simply say, raise your hands if you're all in favor.
Yes, we're all in favor.
Or the yes. Or standing as we read the names.
Well, it won't make any difference. You won't see me anyhow.
I'll help you get up on a chair. Okay, let's try it this way, and then you can tell me later if we went too long. Madam Secretary, I'm going to go in reverse. Starting with the class of 1966. Is there anyone present? 1965. 1964.
Frank Parliament.
John Goodworth.
1963. 1962.
Patricia Bradley Anton.
1961. 1960. Ernie Willeman, our new vice president. 1959.
Matt Colby. 1954. Emery Wilson Charter.
You know me. 1958.
Chuck Neely.
1957.
Jim Rosico.
Bud?
Bud.
All Kovacs. We'll bypass 1956 because they are the honored class. 1955. 1954.
Carl Zimmer.
1953. 1952.
Dan Zapkus.
1951. 1949, 1948, 1947, 1946, 1945,
Dick Beechler.
1944,
Ellen P. Flower.
1943, 1942,
Lawrence Miller Williams. Steve Rogers Powell. Debbie Williams Grove.
1941, 1940, 1939, 1938, 1937, 1936, 1935, 1934, 1933, 1932, 1931, 1930. So that you know, we call all these unless we get word or have data. We assume that someone still may be alive, even though some of them you would think probably not, but they still continue. 1930, 1927, 1925, 1922, 1919, 1917. Once again, I'd just like to thank everyone who has made this banquet a big success once again. For all those who have helped our treasury, we really appreciate it because it is your organization. Mrs. Joanno, how do I look this year? If you remember, she got on my case last year because of the way I dressed, so I thought I'd come more formal this year. Thank you. And thank you for taking your seat on time earlier. She used to smack my hand with that ruler in typing class. But she made me do 95 words a minute, so I really appreciate it. Okay, Danny, do you have the box for the 50? Up here. Okay. Get your tickets ready. And I'm going to have Rich Schuler pull the ticket. He is the spokesman for the class of 56. He came from all the way out west, and he told me when he left this building, he left running and has never been back for 50 years. He didn't tell me it was Jason. I see who caught him. Okay, here's the ticket. 9011040. I'll read it again. 90. You got it? Patty Lutz. 61, does that sound right? 62. Congratulations. Tonight is the night for the class of 1956. As I look down at this distinguished, not extinguished, but distinguished group. Last year was a rough group because they were pretty tough, because I can remember a lot of things they did. This year, this is a pretty neat, quiet group as far as Ann and I are concerned. But they didn't bother us as freshmen. They really didn't bother us too much. So, you know, there's just a few people that I really know. I remember Linda's dad being a pastor at the Presbyterian Church. And I remember Bob Sion because of his sister Jerry. Glenn Gray and his wife Sherry I know the most because they were great parents when their children came to my school at Howland. And I really appreciated them as parents. They were really super. I can remember Drina, but her day is next year for the class of 57. She was a cheerleader. That's why I realized Bob was sitting in the stands all the time with his tongue hanging out. Dallas, I remember just as a neat guy, always jovial and whatnot, but I really didn't know him. Joanne, I remember from band, I believe clarinet. Yes, I remember that. I remember Velma from band also. She was percussion. I don't know if she remembers. You remember when the cymbals broke during contests that time? Andy Severko was up there. We were in contest time. And she had the cymbals before we even started. And the strap on the cymbals broke. You know, you're in front of all these judges. And Andy's up there, and all of a sudden, boom, and the cymbal. He looks at Velma, and she's really. I still remember that to this day. I can't forget that. Johnny Bill, he used to whack my head with that trombone slide and everything. And he had saxophones in front of him. He used to whack me like crazy. Kay Carnes, I really didn't know, but I used to date her younger sister. I took her to the prom. The rest of the people I don't know. Remember Bugsy because of basketball, but he's not part of the class. But this is the first time we've seen him in a long time. I tried getting him last year, and he finally came, so I'm glad to see him on this. Then, of course, there's Mrs. Joanna, who could ever forget? But she's a neat lady, I tell you. I really appreciate it. She can also has a good sense of humor and can take the razzing. You said you were going to tell something on me. What are you going to tell? Okay, bye. What I remember is because when she got run out of, no, she left Vienna and went to Howland. And she comes to my school with this beautiful little girl, her daughter coming to my school. But then I think I left before her daughter ever got up to 6th grade. So I never had that opportunity. So here we are with Rich Schuler that took off running, and he's made a big circle and he's come back. I was going to hand him the mic, but he told me he was too short, so he's going to have to come up here. So Rich, come on up.
Wow, 50 years. What a journey this has been. It's hard to believe it's been 50 years. We were together last night talking over at the Buckeye Club where we had our class reunion, and just talking about all the good old times we had together. It's been pretty incredible. But good evening, everyone. I am Rich Schuler, and along with my wife, Kathy, we've traveled here from Scottsdale, Arizona for this very special occasion. Like Bob had said earlier, this is the first time I've been back in this school in 50 years. So coming back here, it's interesting because I look around and there's a lot that hasn't changed. In reality, you know, I haven't changed a whole lot either, but everybody else has changed a lot. But anyway, Velma Woodall and I started to talk, I think it was late last year, because Dallas has been doing some work for us. And we promised that we would get back together after the first of the year, and we did. And from that point on, our class reunion began to come together. Now, since our 45th class reunion, we lost the spark plug of our own class of 56, Mary Ziddick Riker. And Betty and Patty are here this evening, and we appreciate you being here this evening. But Mary and her husband Ed were the spark plugs of keeping us together and on track, and she'd bug us, and they did a lot of things that kept the reunion going, and after all these years. But anyway, before we get into asking each of the class members to tell us a little bit about themselves, we're going to do it in alphabetical order. I mentioned it, it's been 50 years, and I did some calculations. 18,250 days ago is when I actually actually left this school. That's a long, long time ago. So, and you know, Mrs. Joanna, Bob's been joking with you a little bit. I know you're holding back on us on something, and I can remember how much I goofed off in your class. And I got to tell you, you know, today I get at that keyboard and I can do some real damage because I love the computer. Yes, so I don't do it exactly the way you tried to teach me, but I do it okay, you know? And even when I misspell things, I do spell correct, so it corrects most of the time. But you still have to be careful using a computer because this synthetic knowledge that we use today doesn't necessarily give us all of the things that we would expect to be corrected. I've got something I want to read to you. I've been in aviation for 50 years. That's been my career. I was in love with airplanes from the time I was knee-high to a grasshopper, according to my father. And so when I left this school, I went off and got into aviation. So I want to tell you a little story about a preacher and a pilot. The preacher dies and is waiting in line at the pearly gates. Ahead of him is a guy who's dressed in sunglasses and a loud shirt, leather jacket, and jeans, typical of a pilot. St. Peter addresses this cool guy, "Who are you? So that I may know whether or not to admit you to the kingdom of heaven." The guy replies, I'm Peter the pilot, retired Delta Airlines pilot from Miami. St. Peter consults his list. He smiles and says to the pilot, "Take this silken robe and golden staff and enter the kingdom." The pilot goes into heaven with his robe and staff. Next, it's the preacher's turn. He stands erect and booms out, "I am Joseph Snow, pastor of St. Mary's in Pasadena for the past 43 years. St. Peter consults his list. He says to the preacher, "Take this cotton robe and wooden staff and enter the kingdom." "Just a minute," says the preacher. "That man was a pilot and he gets a silken robe and a golden staff, and I get only cotton and wood? How can this be?" "Up here, we work by results," says St. Peter. "While you preached, people slept. While he flew, people prayed." I've had a few close calls in my career, but anyway, it's been good. Okay, let's see. Greg, last evening we got together. Greg Berskovich is not here with us tonight. He's got some issues, or not issues, but he's got some things that he had to go and be with his family. But I've not seen Eugene Krepich in 50 years. And last night... But I'll tell you what a joy it was last night, Eugene, to see you after all these years. We've lost track and...
I'm taller today.
What's that?
I'm a lot taller today.
Yes, you are taller today. You're a big man. You're a big man. And, you know, it's funny, over the years, as years passed by, I kept in touch with a lot of people. And just like getting ready for this event tonight, I would call people. And I hadn't been in touch with a lot of people, so I called. I talked to Myrna Lay. I can't remember her last name now, but I talked to Sonia Kokas. Anyway, I talked to all those people around the country and talked to them and shocked the living daylights out, to be honest with you. Hadn't talked to them in 50 years. So here's this guy out by the high school calling and talking to people, and sure enough, here's this guy. I called Kay, and I surprised her, I think, as well, when I called her, and just trying to gather up some information. Paul Pennell, who's not here with us tonight, I've talked to Paul. Paul's living in York, South Carolina now. He's owned 22 airplanes in his life. So I didn't know that until I got in touch with him. But a few years ago, when Kathy and I were starting our own business in Arizona, I get this phone call, and it says, "Is this Rich Schuler?" And I said, "Yeah." He says, "Is this Rich Schuler that graduated from Vienna High School?" And I said, "Yeah." And he says, "Is this the Rich Schuler that graduated in 1956? I said, "Yeah." He says, "This is Paul Pennell." I said, "Holy crap." I said, "Where you been?" And he started telling me the story. So we stayed on the phone for a long, long time. The whole story is that I had, when we started our company, a press release had gone out to the aviation press. And so all this stuff got published around the industry. And so Paul, being a pilot and being a member of the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association, gets on the phone and calls me, and we had a good chat, but keeping in touch with people. Anyway, I'd like to ask each of my class members if they would take the microphone and stand up and face the camera so that when they're talking to us a little bit about their lives and their families and so forth, for a couple minutes, they can be videotaped here. So I think what we'll do is we'll start with Eugene, and we'll go alphabetical. What's that?
Linda's first.
Oh, Linda's first? Oh, wait a minute. No. Well, okay. Okay, that's all right. Go ahead. I had a different order, but that's okay. We're at
Now,
Yeah, you're good.
I'm Linda Townsend. And this is my husband, Ray. We've been married for 50 years this year. And we have 6 children, and 9 grandchildren, and 1 great-granddaughter. And other than that, I don't know. We're doing good.
Anyone next, sir?
Well, I was going to go with Glenn Gray next, but yeah, let's go with Glenn because I had it in a certain order here.
Hello, my name is Glenn Gray. I have a wife, 4 children. We've been married 47 years, 8 grandchildren. I put 40 years in the middle. Since I retired, I did a lot of traveling. I like to do missionary work in India, and Dominican Republic. I go every year, and I've been to Israel. And we just have a wonderful family, 8 grandchildren, as I say. And my one granddaughter just got married in October, and her father-in-law is the Chief Justice of the Pentagon, chaplain of Pentagon. We just enjoy life.
Like the Lord. That's nice. Okay, John Heston.
What happened to Carpet? I don't know. I'm John Heston. Most of you have seen me around here with the 50-50 several years. Again, I am married 45 years. Have 3 children, Jeff, Kathy, David. David just has a new little one, which makes our 3rd grandchild, 1 month old yesterday. So I'm retired out of GM Georgetown, and I'm one of the illegal immigrants at Walmart.
That's good. How about Bob Kennedy?
Before I talk, I'd like to turn this mic over to Eugene Kreppich.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it. My name is Gene Kreppich, retired from Packer Electric, 33 years. Look, I wanted to take my picture, because they're small. I have 2 daughters and 4 grandchildren. My wife is deceased. My life is all throughout heaven.
Thank you, Eugene. I don't know if they saw you, but thank you. I am Bob Kennedy, and it's good to be here. When I graduated a couple years ago, I married this beautiful Scott Kennedy. We'll have been married 48 years this July. We have 3 children, Bobby, Tammy, and Mike. 2 of our children, Bobby and Tammy, live in Columbus, and we have 3 grandchildren down there. Tammy has 1. He's our freshman in Ohio State this year. We're real proud of him, and then Nicole and Sammy is with Bobby. Our Michael graduated, they all graduated from here, from Mathews. Michael graduated, lives right across the street from us. We have 2 of our youngest grandchildren live there, Mikey and Amanda. We just love them. They're at our house. We get to get them on the bus and get them off the bus at times, and we enjoy that. As far as my hobbies, I want to say I enjoy golf, but at the same time, you know, it's a very frustrating sport. There's days I wonder why in the heck I'm doing this, but I do enjoy golfing. I enjoy computers. Paul keeps me busy. Kovacs over there going over to fix his computer once in a while to keep him straight. But also, Jereen and I are very active in our church, at the Faith Christian Church down here on Warner Road in Old 82. We enjoy that very much, and it's a very special part of our life. Ed's telling me that's enough. Hey, when I get a mic, it's my turn.
Hey, Bob, 50
I really
years is a
did.
lot to tell.
Yeah, that's right.
No, that's
50
a
years,
lot to
yeah.
tell.
I want to say I retired from Cockwell Steel after working there for 40 years, but Dallas is here, so I got to say I was employed here, because he knows I didn't work. And with that, I'm going to turn the mic back to Bob. Thank you.
Good job. Okay, next we're going to go to Beth North.
I'm Elizabeth Wilson Moore, and I met Ray 46 years, well, almost 50 years ago at Kent State University. We've been transferred 13 times, coast to coast and back again. We live in Troy, Michigan now, and where we have for the last 25 years. We have two daughters, one in Traverse City, Michigan, has two sons, 18 and 11. And a daughter near Alpharetta, near Atlanta. And she has a daughter who is 9 and a little boy who is 6. So the 4 grandchildren keep us mighty busy. Ray retired after 33 years with Kmart, and then we both have our own businesses going now. So, as long as remodeling our own home and helping a friend. So it keeps us out of mischief. And we're very glad to be here, and thank you so much for everybody who put this all together.
Okay, the next would be Margaret Vickers, Oscar.
I'm Margaret Vickers Osterhay, and I met my husband about a year after we graduated. Got married. We've been married going on 49 years. Have 3 boys. The oldest boy has a boy and a girl. The oldest boy has been in Iraq 2 times. He's over there as yet. He's home on leave now, and he goes back and he'll return in November. Has a sister who is going to college. And middle son, Richard, has 2 twin girls that are 13 going on 8. And our youngest son has a daughter who is 13 going on 20, and a son 7. And I like to play golf and bowl, and my husband did too until he got sick. So now he plays on the computer. That's about it.
Good, thanks, Margaret. Okay, I'm going to ask you next.
I'm Kate Carnes Poirot, and my husband and I live on Long Island. I've been there since 1960. I'm a retired RN, and my husband is still working. And we have 3 children, all college graduates, and 2 daughters and 2 grandkids live on the island. My son lives in Texas, and we've been busy with our house and his job.
Thanks, Kate. Next person up is, in alphabetical order, is me. Bill Riegel was planning to be here tonight, and a family issue came up, so he's not going to be here. So I'll tell you a little bit about some things. But before I do, there's a little thing I want to talk about. It's called discretion. 6 retired Floridians were playing poker in a condo clubhouse when Meyerowitz loses $500 on a single hand, clutches his chest, and drops dead at the table. Showing proper respect for their fallen comrade, the other 5 continued the game by playing and standing up. Finally, Finkelstein looks around and asks, "So who's going to tell his wife?" They cut the cards. Goldberg picks the 2 of clubs, and he has to carry the news. They tell him to be discreet, be gentle. Don't make a bad situation even worse. Goldberg says, "Discreet? I'm the most discreet person you'll ever meet. Discretion is my middle name. Leave it to me." So Goldberg goes over to Meyerowitz condo and knocks on the door. The wife answers, through the door and asked, what does he want? Goldberg declares, your husband just lost $500 in a poker game. He's afraid to come home. Tell him to drop dead, yells his wife. Okay, I'll go tell him. Yes, time out.
I'm going to have to change the tape, so that's what I'm
Oh, good. Okay.
It says that he's coming to the banquet tonight with Jarena. I think Bob was pleased. He thought he could get a chance to stay home, but he couldn't because this is his class, so he still had to come. And she said, and I said, well, that's not my problem. And she said, but he sent a check for $89. And I said, why would he send? Did he mark down there for donation? No, he needs handicapped ramping. There were a couple other little things. Anyway, she told me who it was. I get on my laptop and I put in MapQuest. I can't even find his street. It says you turn off New 82, make a left, I want to say Obermeyer Road or such, make a right, and it's in Brookfield. So I call Ann down in the auditor's office and said, where is this street at? She can't find it. Well, I figured that was normal Trumbull County auditor's things. You can't go and ask the post office. Anyway, long story short, find the situation, where it's at. I go, car's there, won't answer the door, so I leave a note of who I am. Why did you send Jarena the $89 and so on? Give me a call. He called. Been married 3 times, blah, 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 blah. So I said, okay. And he said, what's the matter? Jarena needs another check? And I go, no. Sounds just fine. But then this other voice comes on and is starting to scream at me, telling me to shut up and quit talking to him. Shut up and quit talking to him. Shut up and quit talking to him. I told you to shut up and quit talking to him. And I'm going, man, he called me, Long story short, say your prayers, count your blessings that we're able to be here this evening. This man, fellow classmate, is in the start of Alzheimer's, but still goes pretty good. I'll tell you this much. He gets up, leaves at 10 o'clock, drives to Canfield to see Rex Leach. Every day. Now, I don't know if Rex wants to see him every day, but he gets up at 10 o'clock. He's in his paddock. I talked to him. It was very nice. Well, the screaming lady finally called my wife at home. I was away at jail, down at Trumbull County Jail. I'm making smart criminals down there. They got me out of retirement. So they don't make it the first time guaranteed, they'll make it the second time. Anyway, my wife, who has been handicapped for years and has had many problems as a true believer and can soothe anything, she got this lady calmed down. She's a 90-year-old mother taking care of her classmate. And it was just one of those things. So count your blessings, say your prayers, and keep this classmate in your prayers because there's a lot of them in trouble out there that we don't know about. So keep that in your prayers, please.
Very well said. Thanks, Bob. We're back on tape. Good. Okay, it's my turn. I prepared a few things, but before I get into that, in doing some research tonight, just by show of hands, how many of you have computers at home and how many of you get onto the internet and search a lot? Can I see a show of hands? That's pretty good. I value the computer and what it can give us. I mean, you really have a world of information at your fingertips, right at your desktop. You can go in and you can just about find anything. The issue sometimes is whether some of the information that you're seeing come to you is in fact truthful, factual. So anyway, you always have to be careful of that. But I was looking at the population of the United States when we graduated from high school. And knew it was around 150 million, but anyway, the U.S. population in 1956 was 168,903,000 souls. It's a lot of people. At the end of 2005, we had grown this country to 298,266,000, almost a two-fold increase. We talk about competition. I've been in the aviation industry, and we help to shrink the world as far as how quickly we get from point A to point B. And it's enabled global commerce to really transpire at a very, very fast pace. The world population at the end of last year was at, well, I should go back to 1956. In 56 was 2.8 billion people in the world. Last year it was 6.5 billion. That's a huge, huge jump in global population. Now, according to some statistics, I was just at a seminar. Our church had a men's retreat. We had this guest speaker come in and talk to us, and he was telling us how 75% of the world today is actually developed. There's only about 25% of the world that's left undeveloped by modern economic standards today. And they say that within the next 20 to 25 years, that the full development will have occurred. Again, aviation's enabling that. You've probably all heard or seen in the newspapers or on television about Airbus Industries in Europe building a large airplane called the Airbus A380. This aircraft is going to be capable of carrying 893 people total. We've all questioned whether this is a reasonable, rational thing to do, putting that many people on a single airplane, because how are you going to get them off in the event of an emergency? And we do have emergencies, and recently they did an emergency evacuation. They were able to get 655 people off in less than 90 seconds, which is required in order for the aircraft to get certified. And this is going to change the face of how we move large masses of people between major cities in the world. Anyway, I will tell you that this school is the very foundation of my life and a significant part of what I became in my life. This group, we were beyond classmates. We were extended family. The amazing part about this class of 1956 is that we were in school together, most of us for 12 years, and we became extended family. Now beyond that is the fact that we've stayed in touch with each other. And I mentioned Mary earlier. She was able to be the spark plug in keeping us going and keeping us pulled together. It takes someone like that to make those things happen. But it also takes the part of every class member wanting to stay involved. There's people that are not here tonight that would have loved to have been here tonight, but for reasons that were beyond their control, they're not. But our family home was a small farm at 400 miles by Ann and Smith Store Road. It's where I grew up, and I'm very rich in this community, along with my parents, William and Mary Ella Schuler. When we graduated on May the 24th, it was a Thursday night, May 24th, 1956. This school was known as Vienna High School. And this school today is named after Mr. Mathews. Mr. Mathews was an instructor or teacher of my father. And just on Thursday, Kathy and I had lunch with my Aunt Sarah, who lives in Girard, and we got to talking about her going to this school. And she told me how much of a disciplinarian Mr. Mathews was. He was a kind of teacher who, if he caught you talking, and my Aunt Sarah was one of these people who loved to talk, and she's, I guess I take after her. Anyway, he would come up and grab her by the ear and just twist her ear until it hurt and embarrass her. But he had red hair. How many, well, I asked Ruth Miller tonight, I said, what color hair did he have? And she said red hair. And it's fascinating when you hear some of the old stories of people like that. My sister Ruth Ann's here with me tonight. She drove up from Trumbull. But each of us launched on a journey that would take us in many different directions. We headed off on a life journey in the none of us knew where it was going to take us or where it was going to lead us. In my case, my lifelong passion for aviation took me around the world, traveling to over 45 different countries at last count. Kathy, my wife of the last 47 years, has traveled with me on to 32 of those countries. And it's been an exciting trip. My stories tonight are too numerous to mention, too numerous to elaborate on. We've had some close calls. I've had some close calls in aviation, but the thankful thing is I'm still here. I'm still a sound-minded body at the moment. And you're right, Bob. We should be thankful for all that we have. But in 1958, upon returning from my studies and graduation from Pittsburgh Institute of Aeronautics, Bob Sion, one of my classmates, introduced me to Kathy. And thank you, Bob. It was a great deal. But it was fun, and it's been fun. Well, anyway, Kathy swept me off my feet, and today we enjoy a wonderful life together. I always introduce her as the wind beneath my wings, because in the aviation industry, you can't fly without wind under your wings. And she's been the wind under my wings for all those years, and it's been a great journey and a good career. Today, Kathy and I have our own successful company. We conduct business development around the world in business aviation. Now, many of you may not know what business aviation is, but it's private aviation where we use smaller corporate jets, and we use turboprop-powered airplanes to move individuals of companies, usually high net worth people around the country. So I've always been engaged with high net worth individuals in my career. Business aviation really started out shortly after the Second World War, and at the time that I got into the business, we were at that point in time converting World War II type aircraft into executive transports, and they operated out of Pittsburgh or Cleveland or Youngstown or whatever. And here in Vienna, a guy by the name of Forrest Beckett really became the focus of what became business aviation. So when I looked at Youngstown Municipal Airport, which is today Youngstown Warren Regional Airport, business aviation really grew out of what Forrest Beckett put together. He and Barry Goldwater were close friends. He and Henry Tipton were close friends. I got to know all these people, and it was really good. We had the world's first business jet here in Youngstown at that time. A lot of you don't know things like that, but you know, it's those kind of things. Anyhow, we did operate the world's largest executive fleet out of Youngstown at the time. But Kathy and I have a daughter, Lori, and a son, Jeff. Lori and her husband have blessed us with 3 grandchildren, Joshua 25, Jennifer 22, and Lindsay 20. And Jeff, our son, has just recently married for the first time. He's 37 years old. Dated a lot of ladies, but this one just finally swept him off his feet. Lori is our interior designer in the Scottsdale and Phoenix marketplace, and she's done very, very well. She's been featured in many of the magazines within the area. Our son Jeff's in broadcasting. He does a lot of broadcasting across the airwaves in Phoenix. He knows people from one end of this country to the other. But this year also marks my 50th anniversary in business aviation. Besides running our own company, I remain very active in the aviation community. I serve as Vice President of the Board of Directors of the 161st Air Refueling Wing Minutemen Association. This is a group of businessmen in the Phoenix metropolitan area. We're about 3.5 million people today in the city of Phoenix. It's a large city. It stretches probably from Pittsburgh to Toledo. When you think about it, it's a long, long ways. Carol and Bill live in Surprise, Arizona, and they can attest to that as well. But what we do is we raise monies for the men and women and their families who are dispatched and deployed on assignment in Iraq and Afghanistan and other parts of the world. I was a founder of a group called the Arizona Business Aviation Association. And this association raises money for student scholarships. I mentor several young people, but what we do there is to try and encourage young people to get into the aviation business. And by raising monies, we provide scholarships to these people each year. I think, well, I could go on here, but I'm not going to. But I want to go on to the next person on our list, and that is going to be Ed Scott.
Ed Scott, still live in Vienna. Got 2 daughters, 1 now, 1 in Columbus, 2 grandchildren. Happy to be here. Thank everybody that showed up and put this on as success again this year. Thank you.
Bob Sion.
My name is Bob Sion. I live in Niles, Ohio. I'm retired after 42 years working for Ween. Well, Ween and Daniele took Ween over when they filed bankruptcy, so I went back to work for them for 3 years, and they folded up, and from there I decided to retire for the second time for good. I've been married, I was married 25 years, I retired from that too. I have 3 children. My oldest one is my daughter. She is 46, no children, married. My middle one is Brian. He's the one that provided me with 2 grandchildren, the only 2 grandchildren I have. He's 45, and my youngest one is turning 37 this year. In fact, I'm on the road after we leave here. I can go down and visit him in Florida. I don't have a whole lot of hobbies. I work a lot. That's probably what broke my marriage up, because I'd be a workaholic. I do have one hobby, that's stamp collecting. I enjoy it. I put a lot of hours just sitting there going through stamp books and having a good time. But I feel good. I'm fairly healthy. And I don't know, I appreciate what you all did today by just coming out here to honor the class of 1956. Thank you.
Excuse me before you start with the next speaker. I don't want to get up and interrupt you when I have to leave. All apologies. No, I have to. I apologize for that. Let me say that. I start out at I'm going to
Okay, next is Dallas Springer. Yes,
my name's Dallas Springer. Been married for, I don't know, 46 years, somewhere around there. We went together since we was in the 7th grade. So that makes it about 56 years. We have 2 children, a daughter, Sherilyn, and a son, Brian. And I don't know how many grandchildren we have. 8? 6? I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to give this over to my wife. She'll give you the true facts.
Wise man, Dallas.
You know, I talked last night, and he was supposed to talk tonight. My maiden name is Mateko, and I'm sorry my dad isn't here tonight. He's home with my mom. They'll be married 69 years come September. So yes, he did graduate from Vienna too, as many of you know. Yes, we've been married. It will be 46 years in June. The reason he didn't know how many grandchildren is we have 2 of our own. When our son got remarried, we inherited 4 more that we dearly love. So we have 6 grandchildren. We have 3 great-grandsons now, and one of them is named Dallas. Can you believe that? Yes, Dallas retired from Copperwell with Bob. I guess they put their time in there. I don't know. I taught for 35 years. The last 29 were in consumer sciences, better known as home economics way back then. from Liberty. Since then, I've been a tour director with a bus company, and I also work for American Greetings.
Very good. Thanks, Joanne. I think we go to Carol. Oh, there's Carol.
Hi, I'm Carol Howden Summers. This is my husband Bill. We've been married 20 years. Right after school, I went to Colorado, and we lived there, went to school there, and then we lived there until just 5 years ago when we retired and moved to Arizona. We lived in Sun City Grand, which is west of Phoenix, and enjoy it a lot. It's a good place, but we go back to Colorado for the summer. It's too hot to stay in Phoenix, so we do that. And I have 2 kids, and Bill has 1, so we have 1 granddaughter, grown in college now. And that's about it.
Thanks, Carol. Next, we're going to go to Belmont.
I'm Velma Zakis Woodall, and I've been married to Dallas for almost 48 years, and I think I should have a medal, not a red rose. I retired from teaching in 1889, and my first 2 years of teaching were in Vienna. And the rest of the time I taught in Howland. So I actually had Mrs. Joanna here and then taught with her in Howland for many years. And we have 3 children. John, who lives here in Vienna, he and his lovely, lovely wife, Sarah, I think do a lot to contribute to the community of Vienna, and they love it here. Our daughter, Laura, lives in Black Lake, Ohio, and she works for Liberty Mutual. Our other daughter blessed us with the only 2 grandchildren we have, and our favorite pastimes are going on trips with them and having them to our house. We try to steal them every time we can get a hold of them. And we've had a good life, and we're perfectly healthy, I think. And it's nice to be back here and to reminisce about all our good times here.
Thanks, Velma. Very nice. Okay, Mr. Yanucci. We weren't going to let you.
I'm Nick Yanucci. I'm, cool with that. It's my wife, Nina, for 46 years, and I've enjoyed life awful much. Retired from Packard Electric after put 36 years in, and I've enjoyed life every day that we can take advantage of. Thank you, good Lord, for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Think so? I'm not a politician,
Sadly, over the past 50 years, we've lost 6 of our classmates. I mentioned Mary Zig Reichert earlier, but we also lost Joyce Alexi Bartholomew in 1967. We lost George Davis in 1980. We lost Bernie Superak in 2004. We lost Shirley Harvey Kosher in 1998 and Tom Kopensky in 1997. And we'll keep all of them in our prayers as we keep all of our deceased in our prayers. Are there any questions of the class of 1956 from anyone here? No? Yes? No? Okay, we'll move on. You know, Webster's dictionary defines retirement as go away or disappear. I do not plan to do either, so long as Kathy are in good health. Life is a journey full of adventures. We've traveled the world, traveled all around the world. We've entertained people in our home from over 35 countries there in Scottsdale. Let's enjoy every moment that we can with God's blessings. I say a prayer every day, thanking God for what we have and the fact that we live right here in these United States of America. Good night, good luck, whatever you do, and God bless all of you. Thank you very much.
Linda would like to say a couple more words.
Well, I was so flustered whenever I was the first one, I didn't know what to say.
I'm sorry.
But I did want to tell you that I met Ray up here on a blind date at a donkey basketball game. The first time I saw him, he was running out the door with a donkey right behind me. And our oldest is a daughter, she's 48. And then our son is, the next son, Eugene, is an electrical engineer. And then we have another son, Bob, and he goes to prison every 17 years. He's gone to jail every day. He's a corrections officer down in And then our son, Joe, is the next batch. We raised ours in batches. We had the big batch, and then we had 7 glorious years of birth control pills, and then there came 3 more. But our son Joe, he was a nurse for 11 years, and then he got sick of it, and he quit and went to work at WCI. And then our son Rick is in Albuquerque, New Mexico. He's in the Air Force. And they're all very happily married. And our youngest son, Phil, flies these big airplanes you see flying around here, those flying boxcars. And he's been in Iraq 4 times. And he's also one of the elite sprayers that you read about. There are only 5, and he's number 2. So he's a pretty good one. He can do the treetop stuff, you know. But I was so flustered, I forgot what I was supposed to say. All I could give him a blah, 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 blah. So thank you very much.
Okay, here's your chance, Mrs. Joanna. You want to squeal on any of your former students?
It will be my pleasure. Nick, you said something about enjoying life in your speech, and it got me to thinking, who was it? One day this week, I was at a church function, and there were a group of ladies wearing these big red hats, the Red Hat Society, with their purple outfits, and I talked with one of the ladies, and she was telling me the purpose of their society was to enjoy life. And she told me, and I want to quote her, she says, live every day to the utmost. We're getting older, and time is getting shorter, and if we don't enjoy life now, we're never going to do it. And she has a point there. Well, anyway, I want to thank you for inviting me here tonight. It was my pleasure. We have beautiful memories. I was here for 10 years, and I enjoyed every minute of it. And Bob, a number of years ago, when we were both working in the same school system, you were in the junior high, I was in the high school, I was up on the 2nd floor, and it was Halloween time. And if you remember correctly, know the Vienna boys and girls and how fun-loving they are and how mischievous they could be. Picture this. I was up there on the 2nd floor, minding my own business, like famous ruler, going from student to student, teaching them the right methods in typing, and picture my classroom. My classroom was, I would say, from the window there all the way up to where Mr. and Mrs. Zach was sitting. That's how long my classroom was. It was a double classroom. Windows on one side, 2 doors, one on each side of the room. I heard this commotion at the door. There were 3 people there at the door. Do you remember, Bob? 2 of the people were
dressed in beautiful clown costumes, the kind that you see in a circus, okay, with the big red nose and all. And the third person was the Wicked Witch of the West, on a bicycle. Tall hat, black robes, you know what I mean? On a bicycle. How in the world did you get that bicycle on the
You see that person trying to get us out of the hall?
They came into the room and started, well, enjoying themselves, you know. He was riding up. Well, guess who the witch was? Riding up and down the aisles, having a good time. The kids were expecting candy, they didn't get it. I said to myself, well, isn't that typical of a Vienna student? I told you I'd get you. But that's true, though. We had some good times here at school. But the classic one was, this was at Halloween time, too. Remember? I don't know who was involved or who was responsible for this little classic act. But one morning, it was Halloween time, I was driving here to Vienna, and I drove up to the school building, and there on top of the roof, who was it? I still don't know who it is. The outhouse. But the best part was the sign out in front of the outhouse. Superintendent's office. That was hilarious. I'll never forget that. A lot of planning. Well, I know the Irish farmer was after you for the longest time. Those stunts, though, were memorable. The pranks, it was fun. It really was. And with that in mind, I also, on a serious note, want to say that you people, the students, were serious about their education. Even though they had their good times, they were still serious about their education. And it's good to see so many of you here that I recognize, and the parents, too, that I recognize. You graduated from school, you went on either to college or to a job, you raised your families. Some of you stayed here in Vienna. It's a community that is together at all times, and I enjoyed being here with you. With that in mind, I want to thank you all for inviting me, and my husband thanks you. But a little history about myself, first of all. John and I have been married for 52 years. We have one daughter. Remember how I used to bring her here to school all her night activities? And she's now living in Dublin, Ohio with her family. She has 2 little girls, and we enjoy them a lot. It's a long drive going back and forth, but every excuse we have, we go to visit them. And again, thank you for inviting us, and God willing, we'll see you again next year.
It's been my pleasure to serve you as president for the last 2 years. I hope we've brought a little humor and a little fun for these past 2 years. What everyone has said here, and I gave you that story not as a downer, but man, we got to be thankful. Some people know my background as an educator, but my wife ended up in a wheelchair when she was 31 years of age with cancerous tumor. My children were 4 and 11 months. So running a school, taking care of my wife, she's now bedridden because the cobalt finally fractured her spines, but I still get her out on an EMS cot. I bought a van that I can get her into. I take her to the doctor. I hope to Toro tractor up to the EMS cot, haul her out to our lake so she can have some fun in the summertime. And yet, we can still laugh. She is a beautiful lady. Anyone that meets her, they tell me that she's outstanding. So I guess from our life, even through the darkness, there's a lot of light. So if you have downers, if you have depressions, I'm telling you, man, there's a lot of fun out there and there's a lot of life out there. Don't give up, keep fighting, and we want to see you all next year. Finally, for me, I'd like to introduce you to your new president, Anna Marie Wilson-Shargo, for the closing.
Thank you, Bob. Before I end, I think that Bob and his committee, and I don't include myself because they worked so hard. Let's give them a big round of applause. Thank you, Bob, Jarena, thank all of you. Now, before we go home tonight, can we just say a special prayer to ourselves in memory of the people that aren't with us, that are overseas, protecting our freedom? Please bow your head. I hope to see all of you again next year. Have a safe journey home, and may God bless all of you. Good night.
Feel free, we tried making the time, so, unless you have to go someplace, they're not going to come and get the tables and chairs until 9 o'clock or later, so please take your time. Don't feel you have to rush out the door. Go meet some of your former classmates. Renew friendship.
Where are you going, down Trails End? Yeah, okay.
I'll be back.
How's your brother? Did you talk to him? He's fine, yeah. Still drinking people that came Know anybody, Muggs? They're all over.